Welcome to episode 6 of the Ulster Hurling podcast. In this episode, we will be looking at the art of goalkeeping and how you can coach these crazy people. If you're watching this on the Ulster GA YouTube page and you like the content, please hit the like button. And if not, I suppose you can hit the dislike, but don't. And to stay in the loop of upcoming content, hit the subscribe and bell notification button. Just to note, there is some great content in this episode which I have found very hard to edit and cut out, and you will probably want to refer back to this later. So we have broken down the episode and each section is timestamped. So the sections and the links of everything we discuss can be found in the description below the video by clicking on the Show More tab. Joining me for this episode are two Ulster goalkeeping legends, who I, for one, have learned of them both playing and coaching. In this episode, I'm honoured to be joined by
Clarke, Ballygallagher, County Down.
Shane Elliott, Dunloy and Antrim.
I'm going to throw in first with a few questions to set the tone. Lads, in your unbiased opinion, how important is the position of goalkeeper?
I'm not sure. Probably a bit like Graham, it's hard to be unbiased. I think it's probably more important now, Kevin, than it was when I was playing. That's the truth. I always thought it was important because you played the position, you think it's important, but I think it's went to a whole different level of importance over the last 10 years, 10, 15 years particularly, because possession is everything. And possession has really become the focus of a lot of setups and systems and structures. And the goalkeeper, when you look at the number of puck outs in a game, is a key part of that.
Well, it's got even more important. If it wasn't important when myself and Shane were playing 20 years ago, it's far more important now, and the statistics will show that. Like you know, Kevin, seeing the likes of the early 2000s. I was just looking the other day. The average scores per game was 32 scores per game in 2000-2001 season in the Liam McCarthy. In 2019, you had 45 scores per game on average. So you're going to have a lot more. The goalkeeper's going to be a lot more involved in at least set plays. For instance, on puck outs, the goal scoring ratio isn't huge. It's still roughly a couple of goals a game on average over the Liam McCarthy Championships. Maybe that landscape has changed a bit, where your goalkeeper might not should be doing as much goalkeeping or shot stopping exercises, but definitely the possessions and the setup and attacks is massively how it's all changed.
It's good to see the two stalwarts of the goalkeepers union are sticking with the party line, that it's one of the most important positions, but I don't think there's any argument with that. Tell me, did you always play as a goalkeeper growing up?
No, I wasn't actually. I was through into goals when I was about 10 for a down Fela final. I don't think they had anybody for goals, and I was through into goals. Barry Coulter would have been the captain that year, and there'd nobody for goals. And a man, Seamus McGrattan, actually, he would have been an Ulster Council development coach too, wouldn't he have? So he was the manager of the team, and he threw me in goals. And at that time, Kevin, I was hardly able to hit the ball out of my hand. The two cornerbacks hit the ball out.
My goalkeeping started about P5, but I wasn't always I played a fair bit of underage out the field. I played county minors outfield, believe it or not. And I think that's not bad for a goalkeeper. In fact, I think it's good for a goalkeeper to get that experience of playing out the field. So I played a bit of underage out the field, but my primary position was always in goals.
So leading on from that, Shane, do you think Ryan, like his father, a county number one, do you think he was labelled a goalie because his dad was one?
There's probably an element of that, Kevin, to be fair. There probably is an element of that. And I can honestly say never, ever encouraged him to go into goals. I never pushed him or cajoled him in that way, because I would have been involved with it when a lot at underage. I was, involved with them right from under 6, under 8, under 10, right up through. And I would never have pushed him in that direction. He just seemed to angle himself towards it. That's the truth. Now, whether that was, I think Ryan would say his childhood hero was a guy called Martin Curry, who did goals a bit after I had retired in Dunloy. And he probably looked up more to Martin. So that might have swayed him that way more than me, because I deliberately stayed away from encouraging him in that direction. So it just sort of naturally evolved that he moved there. Maybe from about under 10, under 12, he was showing signs that he could do it and do it pretty well. So then he liked it. And that was the key. He liked it. So he stayed there, and then he sort of developed, and it went from there.
He certainly is. Ryan's a clinker of a goalkeeper and a long career ahead of him, I hope. Graham, what about your two kids, Cian and Lauren? Now, they're a bit younger than Ryan, but will they, or have they inherited the position from their dad?
Well, Cian sort of, I was just, it's probably a natural thing for any father who's doing a bit of coaching or goalkeeping coaching or striking the ball at kids. It's a natural thing to be striking the ball at your kid. He controls it and hits it back to you. So you usually find that a lot of the coaches around their their sons or daughters wouldn't be too bad in goals if they were through in there. So yeah, Cian has been putting goals again, a bit like myself, maybe at 10 or 11 for the under 14s, but at his own age group again, he plays outfield. And I think myself now, Kevin, that that's very important, that you're not tarnishing, your goalkeeper and just pigeonholing him as a goalkeeper from a young age because his dad or his uncle or his brother done goals. So Lauren doesn't have a massive pile of interest in camogie, but she's still very good at striking the ball, catching the ball, stopping the ball, and it's probably because we're knocking the ball around. And
leading on from that, lads, what's your views then on early specialisation?
I would urge real caution on that, Kevin. I think you need to let someone evolve and find their feet at a young age. So I think sometimes we can be far, far too quick as coaches, and I've been guilty of this myself, to pigeonhole young fellas into certain positions, be it fullback, centre half, midfield, whatever, and goalkeeper in particular. I think you need to allow someone to evolve. First of all, there's a couple of things. One, they need to want to be a goalkeeper. That's the key for me. If they don't want to be a goalkeeper, then don't put them in there. Two, it should be about more than fulfilling a position. I think sometimes coaches throw somebody in there because they can't get anybody to do it, and I've heard this often in my own club. It frustrates the life out. He's too good for goals. Don't put him in goals. He's too good for goals. I would argue that one of your best players should be your goalkeeper, particularly in the game and the way that it's played now, because you could have the best corner forward in the world who might score 1-3 and have a really good game. Your goalkeeper drops 2 in, you've conceded that 1-3 straight off.
I just feel that it's again, the statistics show that most of the top goalkeepers in Ireland at senior level have played outfield a lot at underage and even for their club at certain levels. So I wouldn't want any goalkeeper within our club 10, 12. Maybe when they get to 14 or 15, it's time then to maybe see if they've any interest in doing goals and doing an extra bit of coaching with them.
What's your views then? Can a goalkeeper make a good outfield player, or even vice versa?
Yes, I can. If I'm being honest, I think it would be easier for a good outfield player to be a good goalkeeper than for a good goalkeeper to be a good outfield player, if I'm being honest. Because if you've grown up in goals and you've developed in goals, and then you go out into, if you're playing out the field, you need to know your positioning, you're taking the knocks, a lot of your stuff is under serious pressure. Not saying a goalkeeper isn't, but you're not allowed to be touched in the square, so it's not just as physical, and there's not just as much contact. So to go out onto to go out the field can be more challenging. So I think, don't get me wrong, you look at the likes of Nicky Quaid, he started his career out the field. He was I remember the great Damien Fitzhenry of Wexford, and I remember playing for Antrim at a time when we played Wexford, and Damien Fitzhenry was centre half forward. So the really good goalkeepers can play anywhere, as can a really good outfield player.
Graham, it's been touched on before, but most clubs aren't blessed with that amount of goalkeepers. So you'd often see clubs turning around and maybe picking their younger player to play a couple of age groups or an age group above them and step into goals. How do you feel about that?
some very important games at underage now, where some coaches would deem some of the games to be very important. You've heard it yourself. Oh, this is a very important game. We need a real good goalkeeper, and we need, oh, this wee lad is good first touch, put him in goals. But they could be playing somebody very, very strong, and the fact that they would maybe that small young goalkeeper has conceded 3 or 4 goals. Next thing, his peers are sort of blaming him, and that's what usually happens. You know, usually the kids around them actually would be putting a wee bit of pressure on if he let a soft goal in, or if he didn't hit the ball out properly, and him maybe only 10 or 11, or basically 3 or 4 years younger than the people he's playing with. So what you could actually do is tar a young fella that would maybe have a genuine interest in goals, to not want to do it anymore. And I don't like that pressure. You know, it's certain kids would be fine with it, but other kids, you could tarnish them that they would never want to do goals again, sort of thing. So again, that's why I think it's good to sort of, you know, vary it. And yes, there is certain young keepers that are very good and good for the team. And again, about Ulster, maybe a lot of teams don't have huge numbers, so they'll have to put maybe the young boy in goals as sort of thing out of the road. But there's still pressure, and I like keeping sort of the coaches keeping an eye on that.
Shane, have you any thoughts on that?
I think the danger sometimes at underage goalkeeper scene is just fill the position, get somebody in, and very often it can be a position that nobody wants to play, because it can be a position at a young age. You need to watch young fellas' confidence in the game. They need to enjoy the game. So if you're standing in goals and you can see 2 or 3 bad goals, you shouldn't stop enjoying the game. But you need to be sure, because being a goalkeeper is all about being confident in the position. And even at a young age, if the young fella doesn't want to be there, he'll not give you his best, because he'll just be in there to get to do what you want him to do. So I think if you find someone at a young age who's determined to be there, absolutely work on them. If you don't, I wouldn't panic. I would mix it around. I would throw young fellas in, and I would give other boys a chance, and I would rotate it, and I would make it essential. Well, it's your turn for goals, so you're going in. If you can't find anybody, mix it up, and then eventually you'll start to see somebody coming through. I've very rarely seen it with a team that you won't find somebody who wants to be there.
Lads, what's your feelings on puck outs? Let's start with like short puck outs, or even, you know, the new one that's out, the give it to the corner back, take it back off him again, and then launch it.
I love all that, but you know, say for talk's sake, most teams now will want you to maybe go short to 2, 3, or 4, because they have been coached in the past 3 months, and they know, right, well, we're going to drop off 2, 3, and 4. We're going to play 5 men along the half back line. This is our strategy. So you need, to me, again, within the group, it's grand to go short, but you need an exit strategy. So if we hit the ball to number 3, and you take the goalkeeper takes the ball off him, to me, there's only one place the ball should go then, every time, and then your team know that's where the ball's been hit to. Should it be the right wing or left wing? And then that's an attack where he's just belted up the middle and nobody knows what you're doing. Sure, the keeper might as well have done it in the first place anyway. You know, sometimes, Kevin, we get infatuated at the stats. The goalkeeper, he only get 40% of his puck outs, or the goalkeeper was brilliant, he got 90% of his puck outs. I have a wee lad of 13 who would hit the number 3 10 times in a row if he was doing goals for Kilkenny. You know, so yeah. And any camogie goalkeeper could do it. But what's the long-term benefit for the team? Like, I do know, Kevin, that, say for talk's sake, I was reading up there. See, Limerick have 15% of their scores have came from breaking down opposition puck outs.
I'm a bit old school, if I'm being totally honest, Kevin. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I don't like puck outs to the corner back. Don't like them. I can see why they've come in, and I can see why they're used. I do like them to half-back midfield and to people running into space. So I do like targeted puck outs. Don't get me wrong. I do like puck outs that are targeted, and there's a system behind where they're going. I also like the variety. I really like a variety of puck outs. So you need to have it in the locker. Sometimes you just need to drive the ball out the field. So that needs to be, so a keeper who knows and has a variety of puck outs is critical. So he knows when to go short. He instinctively knows we're running the ball out there in that half forward line. I'm going to hit it there because we're running it there. And then mixing it up and finding the pockets where he knows they're going to get success and we're going to retention. But I still struggle with the cornerback one.
And what about the wee give and go one? We give the corner back and take it back, and then the keeper hits it again.
If Stephen O'Keefe did that to start with in Waterford, and Ryan did it in the Joe McDonough final of Matty Donnelly, and I thought, Ryan, what do you ask? And it actually works when you want to bypass the half back line. It actually works. So it has its place. So long as the fullback is isolated and you're not risking a turnover of putting your goalkeeper in pressure. But sometimes the key to your possession is you want to get over the half back line with your puck outs. So if giving it to the fullback and giving it back to the keeper gives you that extra 10 yards that'll do that, then I think it's a good one to have in that sort of a range that you might need to use every now and then.
What about the penalty, changing from 3 in the line to just the goalkeeper or just one player in the line? What's your feelings on that?
I love last couple of years of my career. I love the one-on-one penalty idea, because see, if you ask Shane, and I would nearly swear Shane or anybody in my era would say the same. Sometimes the cornerback's got in your road. sometimes you're actually cornerback, so your fullback will stand on your line. The amount of penalties I can see that over the years, and not penalties, we can see that penalties were let in where maybe 2 sticks hit off each other.
Yeah.
So when you were there, it was only your fault. I loved it. I only done it a couple of times, but I never faced Stephen Keith's scenario where it was 5 penalties. But I loved that, Kevin.
The only thing I think it's an advantage of the goal. It's hard to score a penalty from that distance. So I think it's better than the 3 on the line. If you're asking my opinion, I think it's better than the 3 on the line. The only thing I think is that it's made the penalty a bit harder to score, and the whole object of a penalty, I think, it would be really good to know what the success rate is on the penalty since it's moved to that. Because penalties, if they're going to be a penalty, you should have about 80 to 90% success rate. And I wonder what that is. I don't know.
And what about the wee bit of glory for the keeper? These keepers all coming out and hitting these long frees from their own half and sending it over the bar.
All for glory for keepers, I have to say. Although I do wonder what your outfield players like when a keeper's having to run out half the field to strike a ball over the bar. Limerick don't need it. Look at the strikers they have. I sometimes think it's a bit unnecessary. And I say that because, well, even Owen Murphy coming out for Kilkenny, they're great when they go over. They can be deflating when they don't. So I have mixed feelings about it, if I'm being honest. I think if the outfield players need to take a look at themselves if they're needing a keeper to come out and strike frees over the bar.
Yeah, love it. I think that, again, it's a no-brainer, because the goalkeeper most of the time will be one of the best strikers of the ball on the team, and he'll be accurate as well most of the time. And it's gone slightly like Gaelic football, Kevin, in the fact that your goalkeeper is setting up attacks, your goalkeeper is able to take 45s and frees, and has far more involvement in the game. And that's the way it's gone, and that's the way you have to coach it. Like I see a lot of kids at underage, like under 14s, and it's great. I love seeing an under 14 goalkeeper coming up, taking a 65 and putting it over the bar, because it gets him involved, and he's away back running back into the goals, and I think it's fantastic. And I think it's something you'll see more of.
Right, man. I think it went easy enough on you so far. So now I know it's going to be really difficult, but what would you say is the 3 most important skills a goalkeeper needs to have?
I just think that, a bit like the outfield players, a goalkeeper to me has to have a great first touch, a great strike of the ball, and a good catch of the ball. That's just the 3 basics that I would always like to have seen in a goalkeeper. And if you take a look at a 10-year-old that's good at them 3 things, there's a big chance he'd be in goal for a rural, underage team. So probably some people might say, or even might say myself, a fourth thing equal to every one of them things would be confidence.
Aye.
If you took one of the other things, any one of the other things out, and you replaced it with confidence, you could probably get away with it. A wee goalkeeper or a big goalkeeper, there's a wee bit of confidence about him. Maybe he's not the best catcher of the ball. He'd get away with it. You know, I just think confidence is a huge thing now in your own ability, and if your coach can instill a wee bit of that in them, even though they might have one of them other things to work on, I think you would get away with it as well, you know.
Interesting, Graham. So I'm wondering what Sheehan has for his top three.
The three, it's hard to get it down to three. It's very hard to get it down to three. But if you were touch, number one all day long is touch. And I'm, even as a general outfield coach, I'm obsessed by touch, because if you don't make the ball stick, you're struggling. And if any man in the field needs to make the ball stick, it's a goalkeeper. So the touch needs to be impeccable. And it's known when you're coaching that the touch of a goalkeeper is slightly different from the touch of an outfield player, because the touch of an outfield player, and you know yourself from being a coach, Kevin, is you're encouraging the boys to move through the ball. Your touch is all about taking the thing on the run, taking it on the movement, moving through the ball, taking the chance, attacking the ball. As a goalkeeper, you don't want a goalkeeper attacking the ball too much, because of the risk of, if it goes past him, you know how that ends. So the goalkeeper's touches can often be a lot more static than an outfield player. So you have to adapt. You have to adapt your session. I think if you're doing a specialisation with the keeper, you have to adapt that. Whilst they certainly can do a lot of the touch stuff with the team, and that's all good and absolutely should be part of it. It can be a different sort of a touch, is the point I'm making. So touch would definitely be my number one. Ability under a dropping ball, catching, whatever you want to call it, would be my number two. Because if you look at any game, or you look at any keeper who makes a mistake, and I include myself and any keeper that's out there, most of the mistakes will come from a high dropping ball. That's where most of the keeper's mistakes will come. So you need to be comfortable under the dropping ball, and you need to encourage your keeper. The one thing he needs to do more than anything else is make up his mind what he's going to do with it. Is he going to catch it? Is he going to be under too much pressure? Does he need to bat it, etc., etc.? So you need to work that out. So touch, dropping ball. And the third one, there are other skills now. You're asking for my top three. And the modern game would absolutely be striking, and the ability to hit a target. And I mean the ability, because it has to be pinpoint accuracy now with your striking. If you're the way forwards and everything set up, they're cutting out your lanes, your passing lanes, or whatever you want to call them. They're cutting them out with the way they shape themselves. So the striking of a keeper now has to be pinpoint accuracy, as they say. It has to hit the target. And a keeper that struggles with that will struggle in the modern game. And I would imagine when they look at county setups, there's probably brilliant keepers in the background, or number twos in top county teams, and they're probably and every bit as capable touch-wise, dropping ball-wise, and everything else, strike or shot stop and all of that. But it's their puck outs and their ability to hit the puck outs where the manager wants them to be hitting, depending on how they set themselves up. So those would be the top three.
Well, it looks as if the goalkeeping union is conversing behind my back again. You two boys have now selected the same three top skills.
Are you joking? I swear to God.
Well, he had touch, striking and catching, and you had touch, catching or under a high ball and striking. It's funny because, taking it from my point of view, neither of the two of you had shot stopping. But then when you look at what you have put in, like, obviously I'm not a goalkeeper, so I would have been thinking shot stopping was the main thing. But Shane, I suppose if you looked at it that way, shot stopping on a 1v1 is very much a 50-50 sort of thing, isn't it?
It is a bit of a myth, Kevin. You're right. It's very interesting that Graham had agreed with that. He obviously knows a bit about goalkeeping. But it's shot stopping is a bit of a myth, because as a keeper, all I would expect a keeper to stop is what I would expect him to stop, to save the savable, if you know what I mean. And I looked at the All-Ireland final, and you two exceptional keepers. Nicky Quaid made 4 good, all of them savable. All of them absolutely savable. There was none of them that were hitting a top corner and he was flying across the goals. They were coming at him in different ways, but he dealt with them, but they were all savable. And I think from a shot stopping perspective, that's all you need your keeper to do. The exceptional stuff will happen. It'll not even happen 50-50. The ball that's hitting the top corner is hitting the top corner and you're not stopping it. Or the ball that's hitting the bottom corner from 14 yards out is hitting the bottom corner and you're not stopping it unless 1 in 10 you throw your stick out and you make the exceptional save. So it's an important part, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be in my top 3.
Great stuff, man. Now this is the part us coaches love. Have you any good games or drills to practice them 3 major skills that you've discussed?
You would, basically we would have a couple where it would nearly like a warm-up drill that would develop into an evening of, first touch, catch and strike, and the first one being we would have maybe on the 45-yard line you would have a wee triangular set of goals, so you'd have 3 sets of goals about 10 yards apart as a triangle. And then you would have the keeper in the middle of that triangle. And you would have 3 strikers on the outside, up about 20 metres away, facing each set of goals. So if you could imagine, you have 3 sets of goals, and the keeper's in the middle. So if Kevin Kelly is the coach, and he has 3 strikers, he maybe numbers the strikers, 1, 2, 3. The goalkeeper's in the middle, 20 yards away. He strikes, and say you're looking to concentrate on, just for talk's sake, the first one we normally do would be the catching and the striking. The person that's called number 1 strikes the ball into that set of goals that he's facing. The goalkeeper, wherever he is, turns, strikes, and tries to hit back to his catching hand. And you just maybe do that 5, 6, 7 times. You work on that until, to me, you get everything right. There might be wee nuggets that you might turn around and say, well, here, the coach might turn around and say, here, we're not hitting the ball to hand, the ball's dropping short, just relax. And basically you get your eye in for the catch and the strike. So, and then you have shot stopping exercise, doing the exact same thing. Maybe bring your strikers in again, maybe to 16 to 20 metres off each set of goals. Be going, Kevin, you maybe only go 5, 6 shots at a time for the keeper and then change. What you would do, Kevin, is you wouldn't develop it into shot stopping if you're not getting your first touch and your catching and your striking right.
Right. I've got you. So you're obviously looking them to step over, get their body behind the ball more so than reaching for the ball.
Yeah, you want them moving their feet over, using their footwork to get over to control the shot, and you're wanting them to catch as many balls as possible, to move their feet and catch if that's possible. Bit of a fun game. So basically, you have a square around the main set of goals, like from the 14-metre line, and a bit of a square, 3 goalkeepers. So if you could imagine, then in the goals, we'll put 2 poles about a metre in from each set of goals on the main set of goals. So that's a smaller net inside the main net. You have a cordoned area, so it would be just like a 14-metre box. And what you're doing is your player A is in goals, and player B and C have to get 5 passes, right? So they have to get 5 passes, or at any stage score in past the wee set of nets.
So you're saying they could score in either the wee nets between the pole and the post?
Yeah. So the goalkeeper doesn't actually know then. Does he go? Does he stay? At any stage, because it's such a small box, the ball's, either goalkeeper, they're again, what it's doing is it's making goalkeeper B and C be comfortable in the ball, but goalkeeper A is actually coming over to them now and putting them under that wee bit of pressure. They're able to protect themselves a wee bit, hand pass and strike, and move around the square, and it gets the whole 3 goalkeepers being nice and comfortable in the ball, but ultimately it gets the goalkeeper A to see if they're going to shoot or pass into the wee set, shoot or pass each other or shoot into the wee set of nets. And again, it just gets him used to that wee bit of contact, and just to get the goalkeeper A to be used to the two outside goalkeepers, the two goalkeepers putting pressure on A, have to let him catch the ball or put a bit of 3/4 pressure on him. He catches the ball, and then he has to burst out. And what will happen then is the coach on the outside will have one of them same coloured cones in his hand. He put it up, and that goalkeeper A has to put the ball down at that cone then. He has to go and find one of the wee cones on the outside. What it does is it gets them to look up. It's just a fun game, Kevin. Like, the boys really love it, like, you know, because what happens then is, Kevin, to develop it slightly, the keeper doesn't get a signal till late. So you have your cones in front of you. So he has to avoid the traffic with the other two. He's going around the square. He's waiting and waiting and waiting for you. Next thing, you go white, and he's trying to get over to white.
Brilliant, Graham. They're great wee drills that could be very easily used in a coaching session. Shane, what about yourself? Have you any good wee drills or games that you use?
The secret with them all, and I'll talk about them all first, and then we can talk about specific drills. For me, Kevin, would be repetition. And I know as a coach, I'm sure you use it all the time, and it can get monotonous. It's doing it over and over and over and over and over again, so that your muscle memory, it almost becomes, as a keeper, your touch just becomes instinctive. Catching it just becomes instinctive. Striking it becomes instinctive. And that only comes from repetition. And any coach would say, and I'm sure like you, I've read a lot of stuff on coaching, and the consistent thing is repetition. And that can be mundane. And that's why it's important, I think, with your drill, a variety of drills. You might be doing the same thing, you're just doing it in different ways. Touch, but as a keeper, a wall ball should be your friend, really. I would actively encourage a keeper to get on the wall as much, because if you think on the wall, a lot of it is static touch. And what I talked to you about at the start was the keeper's not moving through the ball in the same way that you're encouraging an outfielder. A lot of it's striking off the wall, and your feet are relatively static. Of course, you're on your toes, and you get that off the wall. So it develops that. It's, I would really just, very simple. And it's a bit of a warm-up drill as much as anything else. So it can be a very useful drill for, you know, player at the corner of the 14, another player at the 14, two strikers, just striking the ball at his feet. Just touch, give it back to him, touch, give it back to him, touch, give it back to him. One of them then become the striker, move to the middle of the goals. One stands in the 6-yard box, strike to his feet. The other ones, it becomes more of an opposed drill. So you just move it, just oppose, strike it past. He comes in on the keeper to try and close him down. As much as possible, the drills are match specific, that they sort of replicate what you're going to do in a game. But the thing I would try to get across to the keeper is the 6-yard line is your marker. And that's where you want to control the ball within. That's your kill zone, if you like. I would integrate as much as possible, and I may be cheating a bit here, Kevin, introducing footwork. One of the key skills from shot work is footwork. I couldn't emphasize enough the value and the importance of footwork. So you would lose the ladders, poles, hurdles, that type of fast feet, side-to-side movement, introducing as much of a range of footwork as you can, and build touch into that. So as they come out of the ladders, you're hitting the ball, they're taking the touch, they're giving it back. One that I would do sometimes would be set up 6 cones, right? It's like a rectangle. You've introduced sideways, come forward, sideways, come forward, sideways, drive a ball, take your touch, take your save, give it back. My warm-up part of any session would always include footwork drills, always.
Very good. And then tell me, what about the catching or under the high ball aspect?
A bit like the touch, the only way to get better at catching is catching. And the only way to do that is drop balls in and catch them. Ball deliverers must be fit to deliver the ball, right? And they must be fit to deliver the ball with the right trajectory. Too often I've seen sessions where the ball feeder, okay, they might be trying to work on the high ball, but the ball feeder's putting the ball into space for it to come down on top of the keeper. The ball never comes in like that. You know, they can put too much height on the ball, thinking they're working on the high ball. So you want the ball coming in at a typical trajectory you would get in a game, not with snow on it. So it's coming in sort of below that crossbar height, moving along the line. So they're not standing in one place. They're moving as they strike. So there'll be a ball coming in from the 45, catch it, give it back. Ball coming straight in again from the 65, catch it, give it back, unopposed. And then take one of the shooters onto the 6-yard box to make it opposed, and then vary it up. A ball coming in from the 45, ball coming in from the 65, shooter hitting on the run as much as possible, getting the right trajectory of the ball, coming in over the top of the man who's there to be a nuisance, the man in the 6-yard box that's there to be a nuisance, who initially will be token resistance, just flagging the stick, trying to take his eye off the ball, then starting to actually come in to compete, just building it up. The other one I've seen at one stage, and I actually think it was Donald Oak, or it might have been Graham taught me this one actually. I don't know, he maybe told you that. I think I might have learned this one off Graham, is where the guy who's doing the opposing, and so he's in the 6-yard box thereabouts, has a handful of balls. There's 5 or 6 hurling balls in his hands. And as the ball comes in, throws the 5 or 6 balls into the air. But that's not a bad one, because the whole idea is to try and distract. You need to try and make it as real. And if you've got a full back and a full forward that can stand in there, even better. Vary the positions of the field that it's coming in from. Have someone hitting them on the run. Have someone even hitting frees from the far side of the field, from the far 65, where they would typically, you see those typically dropping short. So mixing up where the ball is being struck from to get the keeper comfortable with all positions of the field.
Brilliant. This is just brilliant, lads. Would you have anything then around the striking that maybe you link into the puck outs or bring it into games or something like that there?
Yeah, what I do a lot is I would set up, and I'm hoping this makes sense as I explain it. Makes sense to me in my head, Kevin. Poles as your targets, right? Poles or a high cone, one or the other. Generally poles, right? So if you've 2 poles, and I would put at the corner of the corner of the 21, corner of the 45, corner of the 65.
So are you talking about like a wee gate, like right on the sideline?
As in right on the sideline, or just in a bit, maybe 5 or 6 yards in from the sideline, but close to the sideline, close to it, 5 or 6 yards in maybe. And the pole set at an angle that's your target, if you know what I mean. So you sort of have them angled to the goals. So the keeper lifts the ball 2 steps, bang, he has to hit the target that you shout. And you do that 10 times, then you move on to the left side, and he would hit the poles on the other side, because I wouldn't be wanting him crossing the field with it at all. You can start to test him. You can start to see where he's improving. You can start to see where he's weak. Generally, as the session goes, I would always finish with striking, always. Your touch, your dropping ball, your shot stop, and anything else. But there would always be a striking element. And then that would be dependent on what way your manager wants set up. So that seems to be the way. But if you've got a very strong half forward line, if I'd Geroid Hegarty on my team, I would never hit a ball near a cornerback, because I would hit every ball on Geroid Hegarty or Tom Morrissey. If you're blessed with 2 half forwards that can win their own ball, well, then you can vary your puck outs. You may not need to use the short ball so much. If you've 2 midfield, a centre half forward that can win the ball, you can just drive it down their throat and they'll put their hand. TJ Reid, sure, why would you hit the ball to anywhere else when TJ Reid will catch it for you? So it's playing to your strengths. But if you haven't got that in your half forward line, then you might have to look at how you keep possession of the ball, and that possession might be from hitting your half backs and your cornerbacks. So it's horses for courses, I suppose, in terms of how you want to set up. No,
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, this is probably self-explanatory, but I'm guessing you don't want any snow on them balls at all. The trajectory is just bang straight at the man.
No height, flat ball, Kevin. Absolutely. Well, you know that yourself. It's no height. What I don't want is the keeper lobbing a ball over the man that's in the line of the pass. Never want to see that. If the line of the pass is covered, don't use that line. Look for another line. You have to look for the gaps. So it's feeding the ball through the gaps. And teams have got good at blocking your passing lanes as a keeper. So you have to find the gaps.
Graham, back to you. Any other wee games or drills that you really like to use?
That's a wee drill there, and we call it a slogging drill. It's basically a goal-to-goal drill.
That sounds real fun, that now.
Me versus Shane Elliott, and with 2 sets of nets, goalie to goalie, each set of goals out wide in, like nearly a 20-meter box, really, to be honest with you. And but you're using your weaker side. So basically, I'm trying to score past you or Shane with my weaker side. And in that, Shane has two cones set in front, 5 meters or 5 yards in front of his goals. If he controls the ball within the 5 meters after my shot, he can strike the ball at me with his good side. The biggest thing then is if you hit the ball wide, you have to sprint round the box back to your own net.
As in round the whole square? Jesus, that is a slog. If your shooting was anything like mine, you'd be running all night.
That'll teach you not to hit the ball wide. So you'd actually be doing that with the forwards. If they hit the ball wide 1-on-1, make them run round the pitch. The likes of Danny Toner there should be made do that now. To develop it slightly, if I'm the goalkeeper A now, you yourself and Shane can score past me as long as you're in my half. So Shane's still striking at me, but if you pick up a position, you can score past me as well. So I'm in a sort of scenario like a match. Do I cover you? Do I cover the goals? Like a one-on-one situation in the goal where the forward's through. Is he going to strike or is he going to pass it over to the man who's standing free and see how many he scores? What with you and him against me for 10, and then you and me against him for 10. You know, there could be a man over elsewhere that you have to keep an eye on him as well, and that's another match scenario too, Kevin, that happens in a game.
That's a clinker wee game. I'm actually just getting wee ideas here of how I could use that within my own training, as in with dealing with all the players. But as a coach, you're really focusing in on the goalkeeper working on his angles and anticipation. Wouldn't that be right? As a coach, you want to make sure that he's aware in the second when you've developed the drill the second time, that he's aware that he could be cutting the angle down for both scenarios, the shot from me and the pass to you. So again, if you had a camera behind the goals, you would actually see wherever you picked yourself up as the coach, you would see Shane moving his feet to get cutting the angle down. If you ever set the goals behind some of the Premiership footballs, you see the keeper moving the whole time. What we would do then, Kevin, is Shane would be in goals. We put Shane into goals, and you as the coach would set 5 balls in one half of your wee 20-meter box, and on your whistle, I would go and pick any random ball in the box and try to score. So Shane, by this stage now, has come off his line, and he's trying to block me from scoring. It gets you used to actually, Kevin, the shape your hurl should be. You've seen it yourself in games, keepers running out, all silly, no shape to where they're going. It's just get the keeper used to the striker being in close quarters, striking the ball into net against them, you know. Have you any good tips how the keeper would set himself up for that scenario?
The one thing I would have is have your stick up. You know, you see keepers running out sometimes, and they're making themselves big, but they have their feet up and their legs up and they're diving in. Whereas, why not have your stick there? Your stick's nearly a foot square. A goalkeeper stick's nearly a foot square. The striker has to throw the ball up or let the ball out of his hand at some stage. Get your stick into that region somewhere. It would have been my tip for that drill.
Brilliant, Graham. Shane, what's your favourite go-to drill?
No, probably my favourite, if I'm being honest, is one that mixes it up, right? So there's one that I would do. Again, you need 2 ball feeders for this, where you integrate shot, stop, and slash touch with high ball. So you have a man on the 14, 21, definitely no further than the 21. So you've tried to get your shooter on the 14 moving to the angles, creating the angles so that he's working his position at the same time. So if a man 14, 21 between the two with balls, through 4 or 5 balls, man 45 or 65 dropping balls in. So basically the one on the 14's driving it, stop the shot, recover the ball, give it back to the man that gave it to you, the shooter. Okay, get back in the goals, high ball in, deal with the high ball, give it back out to the 14 or the 45 to the man that delivered the ball, who will be moving across the line, who won't be standing static, who will be moving and making a target for himself on that 45 or the 65, depending on where the ball's coming in. As soon as you've dealt that, get yourself set. The man on the 14's on the move, he's striking the shot. Stop the shot, give it back. Set yourself, high ball. So you alternate the shot, stop, and high ball, touch. So it mixes it up. Believe me, if you're doing that drill properly for 2 minutes, you'll know the keeper will know he's worked.
Any pet hates around the goalkeeping coaching side of things?
It's as a goalkeeper is seeing, and you still see it. The goalkeeper goes away off to the other side of the pitch. They send a boy that's half injured down to strike ball at him. He stands in the 21 and pings ball into the corners from the 21. Useless. Honestly, the keeper would be better just doing the training with everybody else, in my opinion. What you would want to be encouraging, I think it's another important point, that your shooters are hitting the ball on the move as much as they can, as opposed to standing static, because that's what happens in a game. It's rarely a forward is standing with his foot planted, driving the ball at you, or else you're looking at your full back line and thinking, what's going on, boys?
Graham, this is probably a bit self-explanatory. It's maybe a bit of a stupid question, but most clubs wouldn't have the luxury of having a selection of goalkeepers. But I suppose having more than one allows you not to have that wee bit of complacency.
It does, and see if you have a good rapport with your sub-keeper as a goalkeeper, and I was very lucky, Kevin, up through the 20 years or whatever. I had 2 or 3 great goalkeepers that when you picked up the phone or whatever, and you said, here, go Tuesday night at 6, they were always there for me, for that extra hour, or Saturday morning, and that's the way goalkeeping's gone again, with being part of collective sections and walk-through sections without field players. Your goalkeeper has to do that extra wee bit in his own time to work on his skills and his shot stopping and his striking, because sometimes you go to the pitch at 7, you're not going to get time maybe, or a pitch. Some training sessions you're not going to get a pitch yourself, or a 45-metre line to do some of the stuff you want to do. So, no, a goalkeeper, and if you can build up a good rapport with 2 goalkeepers, and some of them wee drills, building up a wee bit of competitive stuff, to get them working hard for each other, because ultimately, if I beat you tonight, it's just in you. Well, he's not going to beat me the next night. That's just the way it is.
Lethal, lads. This is absolutely lethal. I'm getting so many ideas. Actually, my head's starting to buzz here with the amount of ideas that I'm getting from this. But where do you get your ideas for coming up with your drills and your exercises and games?
That's a good question. A lot of them, if I'm being honest, Kevin, I've made up because of my experience as a goalkeeper and watching goalkeepers, particularly the top goalkeepers, and what their strengths are, particularly their strengths, because a lot of the top goalkeepers now don't have many weaknesses. That's the truth. And I watch for them and I look for them and I don't see them. So watching goalkeepers, talking to goalkeepers, Graham, I've had ideas of. I did a coaching thing with Graham and Didi Quinn a number of years ago, got ideas off both of them. YouTube, I watch YouTube. I dip in and out every now and then just to get new ideas. I got a lot of ideas on footwork from soccer coaching, particularly. That's sacrilege, I know, but there's a lot of good stuff. If you watch goalkeepers in soccer coaching on their footwork, they focus a lot on footwork, and I'm a fan of that, because the position of your feet gets you to where you need to be, basically. So if you look at the footwork drills, a lot of those I'd have picked up from, and I have a good friend very involved in soccer, so I bounce things off him. Gaelic football as well, but I think Gaelic football I learned a lot in terms of the soccer and the footwork and all that stuff, because you can see some similarities when you look at what the professional goalkeepers are doing in soccer and what the goalkeepers in the Gaelic football are doing as well. So I look around, talk to people, make a lot of stuff up, Kevin. I'm forever thinking of drills. I'm like any coach, I'm always looking for new drills. I've even looked at drills that are used outfield and applied them to a goalkeeper, and so just to try and mix it up. But the important thing is that sometimes I think we can get too obsessed by the fanciness of the drill, and the drill's been sexy and people liking them and everything else. But bottom line is, it's the repetition. It's doing the skill that you want them to do over and over again. And why I like to mix up the drills is just, as I said earlier, just to give a wee bit of variety as much as anything else.
Early days you've been just copying. If you go to the All-Irelands and you watch some of the warm-up drills that Donald Cusick or Davy Fitz and some of them were doing. I was lucky. I went down and met them boys all over Ireland whenever I got married, and met a lot of them and seen what they were doing. But I've been very lucky, actually, Kevin. I would know Christy O'Connor very well, and would always be bouncing ideas off each other now and again on the phone, and meet up now and again and see what sort of drills and what's the criteria and what you need to be doing for hurling goalkeeping. But like I do, I get, if I'm watching anything on the television that I think can help a goalkeeper, should it be, any sort of like, I was watching TV the other night there and seen the lacrosse keeper, and him training, and the guys throwing the lacrosse stick at him and the ball flying 100 miles an hour into the back of the net. Another one, I know for a fact that Donald Cusick has used wicket keeper drills. Even 10, 12 years ago, a lot of boys were using these crazy catchers, but that was all coming from wicket keeper and cricket type stuff. But ultimately, at the minute, what I try to do is I try to see what the requirements are for the top level goalkeeping, and if you can tweak some of the stuff, any of the goalkeeping soccer drills on YouTube, or if you can tweak some of the drills for your goalkeeper, it's brilliant. But the bottom line is the way that goalkeepers are playing now, 20 years from 20 years ago, is totally different. So the coaching has to be that totally different. Whereas now, like most players, but most keepers now, at the tail end of my career, for the last 3-4 years of my career, I kept a diary. So really, what you're doing is like, and that's Division 1 in Antrim, never mind the top level. Like that's so what you're doing is you write out, say, 4 or 5 points for first touch, catching, striking, handling, footwork, attitude. Maybe have 5 or 6 wee pointers and score yourself for each section, because ultimately every goalkeeper knows, right, well, I did well tonight in my footwork, or I did well tonight in my shot stop, and you were doing this, you could do this over the season. So, and you just put in maybe wee nuggets for yourself, should have put my hand up earlier for a high ball, or should have come out and met the forward earlier. And coming to the near the end of the season, what you've got is you've got your game tweaked.
I'm listening to these a lot here now, lads, and then in my own head as a coach, I'm sitting thinking to myself, how integrated then should the goalkeeper be to the full training session? Like, obviously he has to do his wee bits on his own, and maybe with the sub goalkeeper or the goalkeeping coach and all, but how important then is it to have him integrated to the full session?
Yes, they should be integrated into the whole squad session, but not all of the time. Because the reason I say that, goalkeeping is a lonely enough position. So I think it's important for goalkeepers to be part of the team and be involved in a lot of the team stuff that's going on, the drills, particularly the touch drills. Tackling drills, maybe not so much. Shooting drills, of course not shooting drills, but touch drills, absolutely, because I think they need to be involved. That doesn't mean to say they should also be taking time aside to do the specialist work. So there should be an element but you might have a session, you train Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You might come in, do the full session with the boys on a Tuesday night, and then do a full separate session as a keeper on a Thursday night. So I think but I certainly wouldn't be one for the goalkeeper always being on their own and always doing their own thing at all. I think it's important, particularly as a hurler, where so much of the skills are interchangeable, that they be part of the team and they be involved in the crack that goes on in teams, and they be involved in the drills that goes on, and then they can do their bit separate to that. So,
well, it's just your coach again. Your main manager, your main coach will be he will put trust in his goalkeeper, and he'll know that the goalkeeper has got his skills working done and his footwork done and a bit of his cardio done. So he's come to training and he'll be talking to the goalkeeper. He's saying, "Listen, we're going to work on frees out of defence tonight," and he'll set the training up as per that. Or if he sees that, again, just using this example, if he sees that there's been a couple of goals come off balls coming over the top of the full back, he'll set that up. But it's a massive thing now, in my opinion, that the goalkeeper's part of the main team's training, because ultimately, if Kevin Kelly's right back on the team and the ball comes to him, he needs to have confidence that he can strike the ball back or lay the ball back if he's under pressure to that goalkeeper to set up that next attack. Then years ago, you'd just been smashing up the pitch and it would have been just. But I just feel with the keeper being more involved in some of the sessions, especially some of the conditioned games, and hearing his voice, I think it's good for the team. It's good for his defence, and I think it's good for the goalkeeper to know as well. Well, here he might only have a right side. I see him under pressure. I'm going to go and I'm going to help him out. And I just think the more time that the players play with each other like that, I think it helps them ultimately. And that's why, Kevin, I'd be a big advocate now of, you see the conditioned games, the goalkeeper being involved in the conditioned games, whether it's 3 passes, 4 passes, or whatever it be. Because, like I say, your goalkeeper now is trying to set up as many attacks as he can, because if the goalkeeper has had the ball, the other side of the pitch normally is out of position. So that's when your coaching should be coming into it, whether it's working with the other coaches within the group and saying, well, here, whenever they have the ball in a certain position, this is where the goalkeeper is going to put it. But the goalkeeper will not do that on his own without help from the group. It's a group scenario. Some people think, the goalkeeper's puck outs weren't great today, or the goalkeeper's hitting short puck outs and they weren't working out. Well, what's the exit strategy for the number 2? What's the exit strategy for number 4 when he gets the ball from the goalkeeper? All that needs set up. The goalkeeper can't dictate that. That's your senior team. That's your whole management group. I'll say, when the goalkeeper hits 4, here's what we're going to do. And you can't just lay it all at the goalkeeper's door. Yes, he's certain targets to get. He has to hit 2, 3, and 4's hand. But he just can't be left alone just to, sort out an exit strategy coming out of defence or whatever,
I've got some money's worth out of you men in this session. So I'm going to just try and finish off with a quick fire round, or as quick as it can be. And I know it's not going to be easy. Who, in your opinion, has been the best goalkeeper of all time?
That's a very good question. And I suppose I'm a man of I was born in the 70s, played in the 80s, 90s, so I have to say my boyhood idol was Noel Skehan of Kilkenny. So growing up as a teenager in the 80s and going to my first All-Ireland final, I'll never forget it, watching Noel Skehan and just being in awe of Noel Skehan. Because, 1, I think I was attracted to the fact that at that time I was a goalkeeper. 2, that he was small, and I was small as a young fella. And 3, that he was good. So anybody that wins, I think he has 9 All-Irelands and 7 All-Stars. I don't know any other goalkeeper that's come close to that. So for me, the best of all time with those achievements, and because he was my boyhood idol growing up, he was the one that I really looked to and tried to emulate. He was the best I ever seen, even now, at catching the ball in his chest. Noel Skehan was a master at letting the ball sink into his chest. And I remember as a young fella practicing that because I'd seen Noel Skehan at it. And the other thing was controlling the ball and being on his knees and lifting the ball off his knees and try. And I practiced that. I remember distinctly, and I remember doing it in games deliberately to copy Noel Skehan. So he would have been my boyhood idol. So for me, he was the best of all time.
Oh God. I was a big fan of Ger Cunningham growing up. I thought he was outstanding, and it's very hard to judge though, Kevin, isn't it? I think Ger Cunningham, when I was growing up, was the best goalkeeper that it's seen. But look, I grew up in a time there where ultimately goalkeeping was just it just was blew off the radar with the players that were playing. Whenever I was hurling at the top, whenever I was playing for Down or whatever, you James McGarry, Davy Fitzgerald, Damien Fitzhenry, Brendan Cummins. Some of them fellas, any one of them could be the best goalkeeper of a generation. Really, Kevin, there's no real negatives in their game. They were ultimately professional boyos, like. So I think, but growing up, early days, I think Ger Cunningham was just as striking as well, as catching points, as shot stopping. He was brave. I just thought early days he probably was an idol to a lot of the generation of goalkeepers for all of us when we were growing up,
Can't really argue with him too, Pucks lads. What about nowadays? Like, the goalkeeper in the modern game is just something else. He's basically like a quarterback, controlling the whole game. Is it any different for the modern game for yous?
Action, so comfortable in the ball, and you drop a shot. If you drop a shot short now, you're in baller. If somebody takes a pot shot from 65 metres and it drops into Nicky Quaid's hand, or it drops into Stephen O'Keefe's hand, or it drops into Anthony Nash, or drops into Owen Murphy's hand, there's probably going to be a chance for a score on the other side of the pitch, because they'll pick someone out. Again, they'll probably walk through that. Kevin, and the fact that ball is dropped short, what's the scenario, and it'll be game on then, So, no, I think for me, and I was thinking about your question there, I think for me it's very hard to, again, split between Anthony Nash, who's just recently retired, and Owen Murphy. I think they're very alike. I think they both dictate the game. I think they're both brilliant at passing the ball to anybody within a 80-metre radius. I think their game management's brilliant. When they concede or whatever, they'll slow up. When they need to go long, they go long. When they need to go short, they go short. I just think that they're very alike. And I suppose Nicky Quaid and Stephen O'Keefe are no mugs either. Like, they're outstanding goalkeepers too. Like,
there's so many good ones now. It's and that's what I said to you. A lot of the top keepers, and I do look to see where are they weak, and they don't have many. Nicky Quaid stands out, and he's not. I'll go where I'm going, but Nicky Quaid stands out because of his consistency. He's incredibly consistent, incredibly reliable, and he is obviously trusted by what is, for me, an absolutely exceptional Limerick team. So I like Nicky Quaid as a keeper. I liked Anthony Nash. I loved Nash's striking. Nash was the crispest striker of the ball I've ever, like you talked earlier about the ball being flat with pace on it. Nash hit a ball, geez, I wouldn't have, I'm sure there were some times they were catching it and thinking, just take a wee bit of the pace off it. So Nash I like as a striker of a ball. But as of the modern keepers, probably by not a distance, because that wouldn't be fair to the rest of them. I think Owen Murphy is exceptional. In fact, and I've been a huge Kilkenny fan right from my early days, as you see from Noel Skehan. He would have been a close second to Skehan in terms of the best keeper I've ever seen. I think he is the way he holds himself, he's always on his toes. His striking ability, his shot stopping ability, his ability under a dropping ball. I think Owen Murphy's the best of the current bunch, and there's a good bunch, and that's actually. But Murphy's got it all. He definitely has it all, and interestingly, plays a bit outfield as well.
Yeah.
O'Keefe, shot stopping, exceptional, absolutely exceptional. Striking, except maybe just not as consistent as Quaid, and Quaid's the most consistent of the whole lot of them. Without it, I can't remember seeing Nicky Quaid making a mistake. I've seen Owen Murphy making a mistake, and I'm putting him at the top of the tree. But Murphy just has something about him, and I think he oozes confidence. He can hit long range frees, and to me, he just has it all.
So some names been bandied about, like we're blessed. If you think about it, like every decade, there's been 5, 6, 7 real clinkers of goalkeepers. Like, they talk about trying to pick an all-star team. Imagine trying to pick the all-star goalkeeper.
But you're right. You know, you look at the 90s. You had Davy, you had Brendan Cummins, you had Donald Oak. You know, you had boys like that who really redefined goalkeeping in many ways. But I think even they now are surpassed by the talent and the importance of the keepers in the current game.
And lads, it's often forgot about, but what about our own wee province? Like, there's some real clinkers of keepers who have been and gone in our own province. Who stands out as being the best for you in our own province? Now, again, I don't mind. You can choose yourselves. You can choose each other. Shane, you can even choose the Cub if you want to. But what do you think?
I think Stephen, well, my favourite keeper growing up was Noel Keith. You know, whenever I was sub to him, I thought he was an outstanding goalkeeper. When I was playing, Didi Quinn was absolutely outstanding goalkeeper. Outstanding. Again, Didi had great qualities, Kevin, where he would be able to pass the ball to Ben Gillen or pass the ball to Johnny Campbell. Next thing they were on the attack.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I thought Didi and Shane Elliott was an outstanding goalkeeper too, played at the highest level. And funny, Gareth McGee from Dunloy was an outstanding goalkeeper as well. Outstanding. So, no, there was a lot of good goalkeepers in my own county then. You had Stephen Keith, Noel's son, brilliant goalkeeper. Simon Doherty from Armagh, good keeper as well. So we have good goalkeepers like in our province. It's getting exposed to that level, isn't it?
Good man, Graham. Right, Shane, it's over to you. Who stands out for you as a great goalkeeper in Ulster?
Best, that's a difficult question, Kevin. The best, well, I'll give honourable mentions and then I'll talk about who I think was the best. Graham, who I know you have on was one of the best without a doubt. Graham was remarkably consistent over a number of years for Down. Didi Quinn was a good one for Antrim. Didi, both club and county, was very capable. Niall Patterson, who would have been one of my boyhood ideals again, and I came on to the Antrim panel. Niall was a goalkeeper after that, you know, that great '89 team, and Niall was a great keeper for a big man, great keeper, great feet, great hands. So he would have been a good keeper. But in Ulster, I'd have to say my best would be Noel Keith of Ballycran and Down. And I grew up playing against Noel on many occasions, and I can barely recall him ever making a mistake. He had a hand that he could have caught. He's the only keeper I've ever seen that could have caught with right and left hand easily. You never knew what a hand Noel was going to catch it with. And he had a really good, a great shot stopping ability. He had the puck out, and he was a gentleman as well, which makes it easier. But Noel was a clinking keeper. So if I had to say my best, it would be Noel.
I can't thank you enough, lads. Any final week thoughts or comments before we go?
You revert back to the confidence thing that you can catch the ball, or you know. So it is a specialist position with specialist training, and to me, it still takes that extra wee bit of hours that the outfield players can get away with. You know, that might not have to do it, but a goalkeeper would. And maybe that's taking the thing too serious. But I still think it ultimately the top keepers are at all that. You know.
They say goalkeepers make good coaches, Kevin. You know,
who says that? Goalkeepers.
Well, look at Darren Gleeson. You know, Brendan Cummins was involved with the Kerry outfit. You know, there's because you can't see the game well as a goalkeeper. You know, you should be able to read the game and see how a game's shaping up and everything else. But yeah, there's the problem is, I think sometimes it's still the goalkeeper's still given a bit of lip service to, particularly, you know, and there's probably still not much specialist goalkeeping coaching going on. Obviously, all the top setups will be, but at club level, it's probably not happening that much, even now. And at underage level, I'm still, it's maybe moved. I haven't been involved in underage for a few years now, but when I was there, it wasn't seen as that valuable a position. And I have heard, oh, he's too good for goals, don't be putting him in goals. Where I'd be thinking, no, if he's that good, maybe that's where we need our best. You want your player with the best touch, the best catch, and the best striker in the goals.
Lads, thanks so much. Thanks for giving up your time and having the yarn with me. and given me plenty that I'll have to edit. But I just wanted this to be a bit of a resource where it'll be up on YouTube, and coaches or players can go and check up on it, and the timestamps are on it, so that they can scoot to whatever part of the video that they really need to see or get a few wee tips on. But I just can't thank you enough. Great men, great coaches, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking me, Kevin. No, enjoyed that. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in. Unfortunately, our last 2 episodes, coaching defensive play and coaching attacking play, have had to be moved back a little bit further due to circumstances beyond our control. But they will now be released on Thursday the 25th of February for coaching defensive play and Thursday the 25th of March for coaching attacking play. Thanks again, and stay safe.